Hello, algebra students, and welcome to our first video of topic 7, where we talk about polynomials and factoring. So this is really when we get into the, algebra that's sort of new from middle school level, and again, really gets you introduced into algebra, connection to algebra 2, which you'll learn junior year. So again, this first lesson here, we're going to talk about adding and subtracting polynomials. So again, I'll put this box around this word polynomials. We're going to talk a lot about those. This is really a definition lesson, and again, we're going to add and subtract two operations with polynomials. Okay, so again, when we talk about polynomials, right, we are talking about a group of what are called monomials. So a monomial is a real number, a variable, or the product of a real number and one or more variables with whole number exponents. So there's a lot of vocab in there, right? So again, we're talking about a real number, a variable, which is a letter, right? And then we talk about product, which means multiplication. And again, these variables might have whole number exponents. So a couple examples, right? So let's do 3x squared. So that's a kind of a common monomial example because it has a number, it has a variable, and it has an exponent, right? Now, this 3 that is in front, we call this a coefficient. So this 3 right here, if it's a number in front of a variable, it's called a coefficient. Coefficient. So that's a word you'll hear us say a lot. Coefficient. And then again, the 2 is an exponent. Another example is a monomial might just be the variable. So let's just go with y. So that could be, so let's put a semicolon. So that could be a monomial. You might just have a number like -5, right? This can also be considered a monomial. Now, if it's a number by itself, we call that term a constant. It is a constant because it has no variable and therefore will never change, right? That -5 will always be a -5, so it stays constant, right? So these are what we call monomials. Now, if you put a couple of them together with plus or minus signs, now you have what's called a polynomial, right? So poly means many. So we have a monomial, or the sum or difference, or two or more monomials. So again, we're looking for a sum or difference of these monomials. Now, each of the monomials in this polynomial is called a term. And we'll talk about that in a second. Okay. And then we can also name a polynomial by what's called its degree. So the degree of a polynomial is the greatest degree of any term in the polynomial. And a degree is the exponent, right? So when it says the degree of a polynomial is the greatest degree of any term, so we're looking for the highest exponent. So, or largest, whatever I'll call highest. So highest exponent. So keep that in mind, right? That's a very important idea. Highest exponent. That's the degree. Okay, so if we go to the next slide here, so again, classifying polynomials by degree and number of terms. So here is our discussion of the degree. So the degree, again, is the highest exponent. Now notice, this is a constant, 7. It has no variable. Because it has no variable, that means the degree is going to be 0. Technically, you could write this as 7x to the 0, because anything to the 0 power is just 1, and that would be 7 times 1. That 0 power kind of cancels out that x and makes it a 1. So that means a 0 exponent, which we call a constant, and we talked about that, right? For x, this is x to the first power, so the degree is 1. That is what we call linear. That was our, mx plus b that we've done for a long time. Then we have 3x squared plus 2x plus 1. So this term has the highest exponent. It is a 2. That is why this is a second degree, and we call this a quadratic. So this is going to be a big name that we talk about a lot in this one. Also linear will too. All right, so linear and quadratic. We've already talked about linear. Now this example for the cubic, I don't like this example So I'm just going to change this to negative 5x to the third. So this has a degree of 3 because that's the highest exponent that we call cubic. And then I'm going to change this one as well. So let's change this to 4x to the fourth. Let's make this a plus 3x to the third. Let's just make this a minus 2x. So plus 5x to the third minus 2x plus 6. I'll write it down right here in case you're confused. So 4x to the fourth plus 5x to the third minus 2x plus 6. So let's make that that. So this would be a fourth degree because this term has the highest exponent of a 4. And once we get past 3, we just call it by their name. So fourth degree, fifth degree, sixth degree, all that. But again, you're going to be most concerned with these two right here, a linear degree and a quadratic degree. Okay, we can also name these by the number of terms. So this, we're going to talk about the number of terms here. So when we look at terms, we're looking for how many things are separated by plus or minus signs. So if you notice this 4x, there are no plus or minus signs. So no plus or minus signs. Therefore, this is a monomial. It's a one term. This x plus 7, we have 1 plus sign separating these two terms. One term, two term. So this is a binomial. That's a big deal. Okay? Down here, I'll leave these alone. Again, I don't like the mixing of variables, but it's okay. So we have 1, 2 plus signs. Now we have a minus sign out here, but that's a negative sign for that term. So we have 1 term, 2 term, 3 term. So this is a 3-term polynomial, so that's a trinomial. Again, you'll hear that one a lot. And then this last one here, we have 1 term, we have 1 term, underline it once. Oh, sorry, I erased everything. 1 term, 2 term, 3 term. Now this third term is a negative 2y. Notice that it has a negative sign with it. We think of that term as a negative 2y. And then the 6 is the fourth term. So we have 4 terms. Anything beyond 3, we just call it a polynomial, right? So again, these two, binomials, trinomials, are very important to our class this school year. Okay, so let's practice naming things by the degree and number of terms. So we have 2 examples. We have to identify each polynomial by the degree and the number of terms. So if we look here at this problem, I see 5x to the second. This is the highest exponent. The exponent is a 2. So that means your degree is a 2. And if you look back at your chart, a degree being 2 means that this is going to be a quadratic. And then we look at the number of terms. I have 1 term here. I have a negative 4x. That's the second term. And then a positive 2. This has 3 terms. And if it has 3 terms, this is where the prefixes really come into play. 3 means tri. And we name it nomial. Trinomial. So this is a quadratic trinomial. Okay, the second one here. So again, I have 7x minus 3. So this is the term with the highest exponent. There is no exponent with that x, so that is a 1, right? So that means our degree is a 1, which means we are linear, just like mx plus b. I have 1 term, 7x. I have 2 terms, negative 3. This is a 2-term polynomial, and 2 terms, think of it like a bicycle, 2 wheels, bi, and then nomial. We name it nomial. So this is a linear binomial. We won't make you memorize these terms. We should give this to you on the test. But again, just make sure you know how to identify the degree and the number of terms. Okay, last slide on this video. So we're going to talk about standard form. So when we talk about naming a polynomial in standard form, right? Standard form. Standard form means we're going to write the terms in descending order according to their degree. So typically that means we go with the highest exponent all the way to the lowest exponent. And again, typically the lowest exponent is going to be when there's no variable, and that's going to be your constant. So typically we're going from the highest exponent down to the constant. Okay? So if we look at this polynomial, 7x minus 5y minus x to the third plus 6x to the fourth minus 3x squared. So this is my highest exponent, right? My highest exponent is the x to the fourth, right? This guy. So he's going to be my leading term. Now it's positive, so I just write 6x to the fourth. If it was negative, I put the negative sign there, but it's not. Now we just go in descending order. So after the fourth comes the third. Now this x to the third has a minus sign in front of it. So we write minus x to the third because it's a negative term. The next highest power is going to be the second power, negative 3x to the second, negative 3x squared. Then we have an x term as our fourth term. It's a positive 7x. And then your last term is the minus 5. I'll just circle it because I don't want to write down 5 underlines. That is your constant. It has no exponent, has no variable, so you're done. And this is going to be in standard form. Now again, just for extra practice, the highest exponent, so this would be your answer. If I wanted to name this guy, right, so the highest exponent is 4. So once you get past 3, we just do 4th degree. And this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms. Once you get past 3, we just call it a polynomial. So this is a 4th degree polynomial. Again, probably more than you need to know, but it's all good. Okay, so we're going to stop the first video there, and we'll pick up the adding and subtracting in the second video. So stay tuned for the next video.